Welcome everyone back to Enochs Corner. This here now our third episode. My name is Sky, your host, and over here we have our co-host Daryl and Terry. This program mainly features all sorts of readings, currently focusing on the Book of Enoch for those who are just arriving to this channel. If you want to know more, it's always good to head from our very first episode, and that way you can follow along with the different thematics that we have at the minute. We're basically just looking for truth in general. Ain't that right, Darren?
Yeah, truth. And in a little bit of a different way to how most people think, in the sense that we are not saying we're doing a deductive truth, and that's very important. Deduction, rather than what I find is that most and the majority thinking is inductive, where people grab hold of something and they tend to want to believe that something, whatever that might be, and from that belief, even if it is irrational, but from that belief, then they extrapolate their entire philosophy and their entire life.
Well, there's a lot of people that start with really good ideas and end up down into political realms and things along the lines.
And how weak can that be? You start, yeah. No, don't get me started on that. No,
we won't go
no.
there. We won't go there. We won't go there. No.
We're after the groundwater truth. We're after what happened. Like, really? How did we get here? Who are we? What are we here for? What's going to happen?
And it's not only essential for us as individuals to be reading these type of ancient documents, but it's also really essential for us to have the input of our audience.
Yeah.
As in last episode, we had a really, really good question that lined up perfectly with our second episode on everything what we were talking about. Questions like those can really, really open up a debate for truth.
And totally we want debate, eh?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. We want debate, because the truth is for now. It's for today. Truth is highly relevant. It doesn't matter what millennia you have it in. Truth is truth, and is highly relevant to the now. And what we're exploring here is the everything that's coming around. How do I put that? There's a train coming down the track.
Things are coming full circle.
Things are coming full circle. If you want to understand what is happening today, one needs to understand what was happening then. Because this book of Enoch is majorly relevant. It's not just a story. It's not just something to keep you amused. It's not something that may be, interesting. It is.
It's pretty essential. I mean, considering the amount of things that was taught to Enoch, both for his present and everyone else's present from there onwards, it laid out the story from beginning to end pretty much.
Beginning to end.
It gave away pretty much exactly how things go down through time. Yes, there's a lot that got withheld because they're not meant to be known until said times, but it still gives the entire story pretty much.
And it's relevant in the fact of, if you've ever asked questions of where do all these amazing, fantastic buildings of antiquity come from? Well, Enoch's going to answer that question. If you want to say, well, but we have magnificent technology. We have motor cars. We have electricity.
And yet, even with that technology, we still cannot replicate buildings how they used to make them.
That's true.
We still don't know how certain things were made.
That's true.
Or unmade, depending on where you're looking.
And this book, although I don't want to spoil I don't want to spoil the marshmallow for you.
Yes, you do.
But that this book is going to explain where are we getting all of this technology. Mankind is really smart and can figure out because he is the absolute epitome of evolution. I don't think so. I don't think so. We might pride ourselves on that. We might sort of say, that's how it is. We're the end product of evolution, or the evolution so far. Oh, come on. Give me a break. Anyway.
In saying that, I mean, last week we ended up discussing pretty much what was the end of chapter 5 at that point.
Yes.
So let's just recap on that one, and we'll take our third episode from there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We're just going to read just a small section of chapter 5 from last week. If you recall, the opening chapter of Enoch is an address. It has an addressed label on this package. And then it starts to make a comparison between two different parties. And the comparison is saying that look at all of the creation, the sun, the moon, the seas, the stars. Look at how the trees come into season. Everything does hold an order, and yet it very strongly, and I'm just going to start at verse 3 here, it very strongly all of a sudden alters and points a finger straight into the grubby little face of whoever this is, and it says, "And behold how the sea and the rivers in like manner accomplish and change not their tasks from his commandments. But ye," it repeats it for emphasis, "have not been steadfast, nor done the commandments of the Lord, but ye have turned away and spoken proud and hard words with your impure mouths against his greatness. O ye hard-hearted, ye shall find no peace, and therefore shall ye extricate your days, and the years of your life shall perish, and the years of your destruction shall be multiplied in eternal execration, and ye shall find no mercy." Who's he talking to? Well, we're going to find out right now. Let's go to chapter 6. Because if you've ever wondered how this world started, how this world's history started, what we're saying as this little consortium here is that we are consulting a history book, not a storybook. And what we're doing is we're reading the history of the earth.
How it was, how it started,
Yes.
how it became, what became of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very deep. Shall I start?
Yep.
"And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose wives from amongst the children of men, and beget us children. And Semyaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, Let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecation, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Bad idea, guys. Then swear they all together, oh my goodness, and bound themselves by mutual imprecation upon it. And they were in all 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon, and they called it Mount Hermon, because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And these are the names of their leaders. Semyazas, their leader. Arikba, Ramiel, Kokabiel, Tamiel, Ramiel, Danel, Ezekiel, Barakiel, Azeal, Armaros, Batarel, Ananel, Zachaiel, Samsabel, Satarel, Turel, Jomjael, Sareel, and these are their chiefs of tens. Any comments so far?
I'm glad you were reading those names.
Well, odds are is that really these days no one really knows how to pronounce those names correctly because of mistranslations and misappropriations of idioms. So odds are is that we're all butchering these names one way or another. But we take them as close as we can.
Yes, we do. But apart from that, do you want to comment about the scene that's been painted here? Because this would be really foreign, I think, to a lot of people.
A lot of people, for starters, would say no angels would do something along the line.
All right. Because the assumption for a start that angels are all good, isn't it? That's for a start. And angels have possibly limited free will.
Never heard that one before.
You know, that they wouldn't dare to do anything that Yahweh had not said. They don't really have a sort of a mind of their own. They're sort of more like trained animals. But here it tells you that they're sons. They're actual sons of heaven in that chapter 7. I guess all I want to clear up is the fact that there is Mount Hermon today. It's a very large mountain. You can look it up, go to Google Earth or whatever you're going to do. And Mount Hermon has always, from living memory, been the center of, I could say Baal worship, but what would be a more appropriate word?
Depends on the culture. He's received so many different names.
I don't like using the word occult in a sense because, as I understand it, occult just means deception to the eyes, deception to the senses.
Which is hidden or should be hidden.
Yeah. But this was downright nefarious behavior. This is where they hatched a plot right on this mountain to do what? To basically take the daughters of men, take their women away from the descendants of Adam.
Introduce their bloodline into that of men.
Yes.
Yeah, procreate themselves.
Of which none of them really had that need.
No. Would it be true to say, and if I'm going too far, then just cut me out, that as they came down, they would have been spirits? Is that right?
Well, yeah, anything that's within the realm of heaven does not contain a physical body.
Could we use the word ethereal even?
Yeah.
Could it then have been that these ethereal spirits coming down and seeing the corporeal population, especially the women, that they wanted to experience everything that was given to mankind.
Well, they were jealous from the very beginning.
Yes.
And there was more than one of them, although it only ever states one of them, but it's known that there was more than one.
Yes.
That little group sort of influenced a lot of others. That's why there was so many at the end of it. I mean, they mentioned that it's a group of 200.
Yes. Well, even though this is a little bit condensed, you can see that they had a leader, Samyaza. Are we thinking that Samyaza is Satan?
I would call it more one of his closest.
Right.
Because the War of the Fallen happened way before that.
Yes.
And once he fell, he was no longer allowed within the realm of heaven.
Okay, a small apology here because we're all versed in a lot of these works. And a lot of these works, we've jumped the gun a little bit in the sense that, yes, the actual rebellion did take place before this. And this would be just another incursion of that same said rebellion.
Yeah.
More mischief.
Just because he wasn't allowed back into heaven, it doesn't mean that he couldn't be looking from outside the gates, so to speak.
No.
And even from outside the gates, his corruption can still reach far and wide.
Yes.
And it's not far-fetched to think that he'd be prodding a stick through the fence.
Yes. So to put this into context, then again, interrupt me if I'm getting out of context here. What we're saying is that, yes, there was a literal Garden of Eden. Yes, there was a literal Adam and Eve, who is the beginning of everybody that is here on the earth at this point in time. Yes, they did fall by the instigation of being seduced by Satan. And after the fall, I'm trying to put this into historic context, after the fall and men were spreading across the earth, now you had further mischief by 200 of these jokers descending down onto Mount Hermon.
And 200 that entered into a pact, no less.
I just can't understand that. Anyway, that's not my business. I'm just taking it for what it says. So we're saying that there's 200 of these heavenly angels forsaking and now going directly against the desire of Most High.
Yeah.
Right so far? And
with disastrous results to boot.
Oh, yes. And by the way, just as a side issue, Mount Hermon is where you get Hermetics from. And the god Hermes. Yeah, the god, lovely little fellow Hermes he's probably in this band of jokers, where he's... he is the god of tittle-tattling little tales carrying messages to lead people into destruction. Oh my goodness. And that's where you get the name Mount Hermon. He came from there. I think I should leave it there because it starts to get rather deep in our culture.
And we still got a lot of cover.
And people might get offended. Yes, okay. Let's do the next chapter if there's no other comments. Oh, here it is. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one, and they began to go in unto them and to defile themselves with them, and they taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants, and they became pregnant. And they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones.
Brutal.
You want to comment or go on?
Let's go through it.
Okay.
And afterwards we can come back and see, pick out what couple of things we get along the way.
Oh, yeah. Chapter 6, 7,
8.
8. And Azazel taught men to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth, and the art of working them, and bracelets, and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all colouring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all of their ways. Simyaza taught enchantments and root cuttings, Armaros the resolving of enchantments, Barachiel taught astrology, Kokabel the constellations, Ezekiel the knowledge of the clouds, Arachiel the sign of the earth, Shamsiel the signs of the sun, and Sariel the course of the moon. And as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. And then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from the heaven and saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. And they said to one another, the earth made without inhabitants cries the voice of their crying up to the gates of heaven. And now to you, the holy ones of heaven, the souls of men, make their suit, saying, bring our cause before the Most High. And they said to the Lord of the ages, Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, and God of the ages, the throne of thy glory standeth unto all the generations of the ages, and thy name holy and glorious and blessed unto all the ages. Thou hast made all things, and power over all things hast thou, and all things are naked and open in thy sight, and thou seest all things. Nothing can hide itself from thee, and thou seest what Azazel hath done, who hath taught all unrighteousness on the earth, and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn. And Simyaza, to whom thou hast given authority to bear rule over his associates, and they have gone to the daughters of men upon the earth, and have slept with the women, and have defiled themselves, and revealed to them all kinds of sins, and the women have borne giants. And the whole earth has thereby been filled with blood and unrighteousness. And now behold, the souls of those who have died are crying and making their suit to the gates of heaven, and their lamentations have ascended and cannot cease because of the lawless deeds which are wrought on the earth. And thou knowest all things before they come to pass, and thou seest these things, and thou dost suffer them, and thou dost not say to us, what are we to do to them in regard to these? Then said the Most High, the Holy and Great One spake, and sent Uriel to the sons of Lamech, and said to him, go to Noah, and tell him in my name, hide thyself, and reveal to him the end that is approaching. that the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth and will destroy all that is on it. And now instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world. And again the Lord said to Raphael, Bind Azazel, hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and making an opening in the desert which is in Dudael, and cast him therein, and place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face, that he may not see light. And on the day of great judgment he shall be cast into the fire. And heal the earth which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish through all the secret things that the watchers have disclosed, and have taught their sons. And the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel, and to him ascribe all sin. And to Gabriel said the Lord, Proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication, and the children of the watchers from amongst men, and cause them to go forth. Send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. For length of days they shall not have, and no request that they, their fathers, make of thee shall be granted unto their fathers on their behalf. For they hope to live an eternal life, that each one of them will live 500 years. And the Lord said to Michael, Go, bind Simyaza and his associates, who have united themselves with women so as to have to defile themselves with them in all their uncleanliness. And when their sons have slain one another, and they've seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, till the day of their judgment and of their consummation, until the judgment that is forever and ever is consummated. And in those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, and to the torment and the prison in which they shall be confined forever. And whosoever shall be condemned and destroyed will from henceforth be bound together with them to the end of all generations. And destroy all the spirits of the reprobate and the children of the watchers, because they have wronged mankind. Destroy all wrong from the face of the earth, and let every evil work come to an end, and let the plant of righteousness and truth appear. And it shall prove a blessing, the works of righteousness and truth shall be planted in truth and joy forevermore. And then shall all the righteous escape. They shall live till they beget thousands of children, and all the days of their youth and their old age shall they complete in peace. And then shall the whole earth be tilled in righteousness, and shall all be planted with trees, and be full of blessing, and all desirable trees shall be planted on it, and they shall plant vines on it. And the vine which they plant thereon shall yield wine in abundance. And as for all the seed which is sown thereon, each measure of it shall bear 1,000, and each measure of olives shall yield 10 presses of oil. And cleanse thou the earth from all oppression, and from all unrighteousness, and from all sin, and from all godlessness, and all the uncleanliness that is wrought upon the earth. Destroy off the earth. And all the children of men shall become righteous, and all nations shall offer adoration, and shall praise me, and shall worship me. And the earth shall be cleansed from all defilement, from all sin, and from all punishment, and from all torment, and I will never again send them upon it from generation to generation forever. And in those days I will open the store chambers of blessing which are in heaven, so as to send them down upon the earth over the work and labor of the children of men. And truth and peace shall be associated together throughout all the days of the world, and throughout all the generations of men.
So what can we actually gather from all of that up to the minute? I mean, that's quite a bloody chapter, to say the least.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal.
because it was a near extermination at that point.
Yeah. That's our history, I'm afraid, isn't it? We haven't stopped. But yes, it's, you see, like the difficulty is that we have a thing called science. And science tells you that you came from a piece of slime.
Or the origins of it, at least.
And you developed into some sort of a water creature. And then you came up on the land. And then somehow you managed to survive on the land. And somehow you developed into other creatures, reptiles or something like that. And somehow from reptiles or maybe other creatures, you then evolved into having two legs and stand upright and swing from trees and eat bananas, which some people still do to this day. But anyway, that's another story.
Yeah, it's called politicians.
However, well, let's say this, that if you can believe that one,
Well, really, from anyone's current point of view, you'd have the people in where this type of origin is completely outlandish, yet you also have the opposite side of the story that says that the science explanation point of view is as outlandish as this one is, realistically speaking.
I think it's more outrageous.
It really depends whose point of view you're looking at it from, though.
Okay. Yeah.
Because yes, you have those that know nothing other
Then,
than what is taught to them. You have people that know nothing other than science. You have those that know nothing other than the history that has been taught to them.
yeah.
To those people, this type of story, especially with the amount of evidence that they push forward, to them this would seem nigh impossible.
Yes, of course, but it's highly possible that you developed from a piece of slime. That's really possible.
So I mean, still both those that take on that point of view and both that take on this type of point of view, at the end of the day, they just fall within to their own beliefs.
Yes. Yeah. So it's going back perhaps to what we were saying before, that if you're impregnated, and I will use that word, that an idea is planted into your brain, a certain idea. Now, unless you actually question that idea, and look, I don't care if somebody is an evolutionist, I don't care if somebody is a scientist, I don't care what they are. They have to answer for their own life. They have to answer for their own statements.
That's right.
And their own behavior. It's nothing to do with me. It's not my business. All I'm saying is that once a person is impregnated into the brain with a certain idea, they will now look to extrapolate that idea and to confirm that idea, and they will keep on looking for evidence which supports their initial point of view that has been impregnated into their brain.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when you feel like picking at sticks, you'll find sticks.
Yes.
It's as simple as it gets. I mean, it doesn't matter how good of a cleaner one person can be.
Yes.
No matter how perfect a clean of a place you do,
Yes.
there's always going to be someone who's going to be able to find a fault. History is no different. If you want to justify your own theories to make something theoretically plausible, you can.
Of course.
You can.
Of course. We do it all the time as a race.
Hmm.
I mean, a used car salesman will do that. You know, this is the best value car I have personally ever come across in my entire career as a used car salesman, and it's now yours. This piece of junk.
You got people that can sell ice to an Eskimo and convince them that they need it.
See, the way I see it, I guess we're all seeing it, is that you've got to have the courage, and it does take a certain amount of courage, I think, to say, hang on, I could be wrong. Really, I mean, the way that I've been taught and some of the foundational ideas that I've had, I've never actually questioned them, you know. Maybe I should.
Well, people don't have a reason to.
Why?
Well, if you grow up within a cycle and you're used to that cycle, what reason are you going to have to doubt that cycle?
Are you saying don't rock the boat?
No. I'm saying that in order for someone to change the road they're going down, they need a reason, or a reason with real weight behind it.
Yeah, real weight. Yeah.
People in general, they're a creature of habit.
Yep.
They wake up, they brush their teeth, they have breakfast, they go to work, they get paid, they come back, they have dinner, shower, bed. And that is the daily routine for about around 80% of people worldwide.
Are you calling people hobbits?
Hobbits?
Lord of the Ring friends, a hobbit is entirely this little quiet creature that likes to live in the Shire and doesn't like nasty stories that disturbs their thinking and doesn't like nasty adventures.
Well, it's not even about nasty stories. I mean, you want nasty stories, all you got to do is turn on the TV and watch some news.
Sure.
You got nasty stories for days on end on that one. But what I'm saying is that
Acceptable nasty stories.
if a creature of habit doesn't have a solid reason to doubt what he's doing, especially if what they're doing has always yielded a particular result.
Yes.
They won't even consider looking into it.
Oh, yes.
Because they have no reason to.
Yes. I'm glad you said that, yeah.
I take the bus. Why do I take the bus? Well, I don't want to walk.
That's right.
I drive my car. Why do I drive my car? I don't want to walk.
That's
right.
right.
My work is 20, 30, 40 kilometers away from here. Why would I walk?
That's right.
And that is their reality.
That's right.
So why would they consider anything else other than their car to get from point to A to B?
You're talking about conditioning.
But that's what life is.
Conditioning?
You get conditioned since pretty much you start walking.
Do you think
From the
so?
point in time in where you have a certain understanding, you have your parents teaching you what they believe is right and wrong. What they believe can be the easiest path for you to grow up in. But if that path is already crooked to start off with, well, the kid's road is going to be as crooked as that one, if not even more.
Yes.
There are very little exceptions in people that are naturally curious enough
Yes.
to say, well, that's not right.
And that's who we're looking for. We're looking for those type of people that says, maybe I should ask a few questions.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And you have, I know a particular person myself who currently has a PhD in science. And they literally will slap someone across the head to whoever calls them doctor.
Right.
Because it says, I bleed red. This title, all it's done is made me dumber. All this title's done is made me dumber because it has made me forget the fundamentals and the very basics of things, because you get into more and more and more and more complex things day after day after day.
Yes. Yes. So what we're saying is that there could be a completely different origin of civilization as we see it. There could be. We don't all have to have been walking around with the backs of our hands scraping along the ground. Do we?
But this particular pieces that we've been reading doesn't exactly describe our origin, but it does describe the origin of darkness,
Yeah.
the dark bloodline.
Yeah.
This is pretty much where it began.
That's right. So let's get back on the track. Oh, sorry. Did you have something?
Oh, well, I was just going to say how it starts off with the fallen angels, and as we've all said in the in past conversations, that the Bible is kind, and doesn't sort of give this same expansion, but it is mentioned in Genesis 6 about the angels coming down
Yes.
and mingling with women, but you don't very often hear that taught.
It's very tiny, isn't it?
It's very tiny, and so, as you've said, the Bible's kind. It doesn't sort of go into the, what's the word I'm looking for?
Gritty details.
The gritty details of.
But again, that is because there exist people that say, well, those who are down below there somewhere, they don't need to know all of that. They're not intelligent enough to figure all of that out. So just leave it out. Just leave it out because they're too dumb. They won't understand any of that.
That's just them.
Or it might frighten them.
It might frighten them.
Unfortunately, our current Bible is based on the opinion of people that are like that.
Yeah.
The current existing Bible, particularly if you're looking at a Catholic's Bible, I mean, it's the Catholics that have dictated how every other Bible exists to this day.
Okay. Yeah.
They have determined through decrees what is and what isn't within Bibles. And that's why you have the Apocrypha versus the canon. They made that concept up.
Yeah.
They invented that by saying, and it is actually written in some of the decrees from the popes. People are dumb, therefore they shall be treated as dumb. Peasants, they don't have the right to know the sacred word, therefore they'll get as washed down version as possible.
Very sad.
I think one of there's been a lot of revolts against the church because of this, but one of the most notorious ones of them was Calvinism.
Okay.
So Calvin was the first one to burn the indulgences.
Yeah. Okay.
Because before the church knew people were that stupid and uncultured that they were charging them for being forgiven from their point of view.
Yeah.
Calvin said, stick it, and introduced an idea that was much more based on ancient documents than what they had at that point in time.
Yes.
Since the day there has existed churches is the day since there have been existing businesses for profit.
Yes.
And that's what I have against churches.
Yes.
They don't care about people. They care about what they can achieve and how much they can gain through people's understanding or lack thereof.
Yes. It's unfortunate, isn't it, that if somebody ever starts to rumble what's really going on inside the denomination, their welcome will be abruptly terminated.
Mm-hmm. But more so than that, I mean, every single culture, save for one or two, I believe, all of their explanations say that they are the ones that have it right, and if you
Yes.
don't follow their way, you'll burn in some form of hell.
Yes.
To me, they're all wrong.
Yes.
Every single last one of them. But at the
Yes.
same time, they're all right.
Yes. That's right. They're wrong in the fact that they are insulated in their thinking and exclude everybody that doesn't think exactly like that along that exact line of interpretation. They're correct in announcing that we have totally another origin, that it's Most High that you serve. But sometimes I really question where and I don't like using the word church. It's, say an assembly, a congregation, or something like that. But that they will, on the one hand, say, love the Lord your God and love your neighbor as yourself,
whilst they're in the process of extending their hand saying, he's right here. Cough it up.
Well, it's very disturbing, and I'm not against assemblies. I'm not against denominations. I'm not against as such, because where else in the world are you going to find anything that isn't just an organization, a business, a setup? Where are you going to go? You're going to go nowhere, right? So I'm not intrinsically against anything like that, but I do see it for what it is. And that's very disappointing, because one would sincerely just hope beyond that there is somewhere where you can breathe easy and learn the truth. And in fact, you can't, because you breathe easy as long as you ascribe to that idea, whatever that be, in the various denominations.
And that's because they are the ones that are correct. No one else is correct but them.
According to them.
Every single denomination that I know follows that same creed.
Yes. Would I be out of turn then in saying that what we're doing here is saying that we're offering the raw texts? We're offering to explore how all of this that you see, including all the denominations, including all the setups of mankind, all the circles, organizations, etc., where did that all come from? And as we explore that, we're going to read these books which outlay it. And
pretty plainly too.
Pretty plainly.
It does it pretty plainly and bluntly.
Frankly, yes. Yeah. And so, really, if you want to just go back up to, chapter 6 or 7?
Seven, 6 or 7.
Yeah, 7 will do fine.
8, 7.
Yeah. So what's happening is that there was, and I'm going to use the word now in a very, very pragmatic sense, there was an incursion of a race of angels that came down onto the earth, and they did take the women, and they did start to breed with the women, and they did start to teach mankind and their wives about the secrets. What do we mean by the secrets?
Secrets that men weren't meant to know because they didn't need to know them.
They didn't need to know.
They didn't need to know. They didn't need to know herbology. They didn't need to know astrology. They had no need at that point in time, at least, for any form of metallurgy.
No.
Especially not with those type of origins. I mean, sure, if they wanted to show them how to forge themselves a little wheel to cart themselves things easier, yeah, perhaps. But there was no need to show them how to mix and match materials to make body armor, to make swords, to make shields.
But that couldn't stand for makeup, though, surely. They must have needed makeup.
It's just that all of that spells one thing. All of the things that they taught encompasses one particular idea, and that is vanity.
Yes.
Because vanity carries jealousy.
Even metallurgy was vanity.
Jealousy carries competition.
Yes. So that what they were doing is that they were starting to stir the baser nature.
That's right. The basic instincts that really had no place at that point in time.
Yes, that's right.
That they could say, okay, well, what do I need this sharp object for? I can't cut grass with it.
No.
It's like, no, but it's to defend yourself for when that bloke over there comes and takes your little blade of grass.
Yeah, well, you need that, don't you? You need to know, how to lop his head off. Yes.
Yes.
They introduced vanity, and they pretty much taught them how to use the things that would defend themselves or aggravate themselves against
Yes.
that.
And so this merger between the angels and the women begat giants. And what we can see today, we can't find missing links as such, although some people might argue about that, but we can't find so much missing links, but we can certainly find bones of giants and much evidence of giants on the earth today. And I don't know, I'd even be as bold to make the statement as that there have been so much discovery of remains, etc., amongst these races that I don't know if you can ever really doubt anymore that there was giants.
Well, 90% of Greek mythology is based off of titans.
Yes. Yes. And yeah. And in that sense as well, although, okay, I'm going to run the risk of people starting to mock and laugh at this whole thing, but I think that a lot of the Greek mythologies, whether they were accurate or not, I don't know, but they certainly do have some credence, especially when it's talking about hybrids, because the listener might not have picked it up yet, but right down in verse 5 of that chapter 7, and they began to sin against birds. What does that mean? Again, Enoch, I think, is being very kind because it uses just a very, very vague concept. What does sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish mean?
Well, it encompasses pretty much everything that can be done to them was done to them.
Yeah. And it would seem, once you start to compare the other books, etc. Yeah, go on.
Out of curiosity,
Yeah.
mainly because I can't ever remember seeing this one, just jumped at me just now from what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Was consuming an animal back then considered a sin?
I don't know.
Because if it wasn't, then yeah, they were doing everything except eating them.
I think it's quite a universal term. In fact, as you're saying, that they were doing everything that they shouldn't. And I think that would highly likely also encompass crossbreeding these things.
And that's where you get the appearances of chimeras, for example.
Yes. So again, at the risk of being ridiculed, do I believe that things like centaurs, minotaurs, other types of creatures existed, Medusa, for instance, or whatever?
Just on a bit of a fly, there is too much within too many types of mythologies.
Yes.
For a single or even just a group of people to come out with out of the blue.
Yes.
The mythologies, including the stories behind Enochs and the beginnings, they are far, far too intricate.
Yes.
To just be the good old smokeroo off of somebody.
A good tale on a windy night.
There are too many names, there are too many details, there are too many events that happen.
Yes.
And whilst, yes, a good writer can pull off a story like this, you would have found that mythologies would have carried out in a very local area if that would have been the case. We're talking about things that disseminated worldwide.
Yes.
Even
China.
back at that point in time.
Yep. America. South America?
So they must have come from somewhere.
Yes.
It is said that I've heard it before, and where someone says the tale of a reality
Yes.
becomes a myth becomes a legend.
Yes. Okay.
At some point, some of this was true somewhere down the line.
Yes. And we're attesting that we're going back to the origin and the actual history of where all of this began. But it would seem that what they were doing is that they were performing abominations against all of these fish and reptiles and birds and beasts, and they were eating each other.
Yeah, one another, and drinking the blood.
Because at this time, these giants were so big that they ran out of food.
They ran out of things to eat, and
Yeah.
they just looked at themselves and like, you look mighty tasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the birth of cannibalism.
Yes. Absolutely. Incredible.
More than the birth of cannibalism, I'd call it the birth of viciousness.
Okay.
Viciousness. Can you describe viciousness?
A viciousness or something that is vicious is something that will attack anything in sight without necessarily any form of provocation.
Okay. Yep.
In their case, they were doing everything to everything. And nothing really prompted them to become like that. It was just the twisted nature
Yeah.
of something that had become terribly corrupted
Yes.
and imbued into men's bloodline.
Yes.
That mixture was never going to end well.
No. It's whatever you feel good at the time you do it. So if you feel like eating somebody, just knock them on the head and roast them up.
Munch.
Yeah. Go to chapter 8. And so we have Azazel, who is, highly likely one of the leaders. Are we saying he was one of the leaders? I don't think he was Satan himself.
Remember that there was 10 leaders all up,
Yes.
divided within those 200 groups. So I'm assuming there's several leaders of several groups.
Yes. But this fellow taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates and make known to them the metals, etc. And then we had ornaments, and then they started to go further and not just deal with 200 who were carrying the women off, but all of them and all of the offspring started to be completely lawless. And there arose, it says in verse 2, much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all of their ways. And they started to get into astrology. Remember, too, that, as you were saying before, these are the secrets of heaven.
Well, yeah. I mean, they, whilst have a purpose, they have a purpose for Most High and for his realm.
Yes.
They're not meant to have a purpose for men.
Yes. I've come across people that don't like to read Enoch or anything like that, because as soon as it starts to mention, well, we are talking demons here, don't we? As soon as it starts to mention demons and accounts of demons, and especially when it starts to throw in words like astrology, that's when it really freaks them out.
Yeah, and then they go and watch the morning news to see what the sign says.
Yes. And so we're talking, we're not, like, people have got this idea that astrology is something that dark forces and mediums practice only. Whereas really astrology was one of the secrets of heaven, and it has been corrupted. And let me say,
I don't. The The essences of these practices haven't become corrupted.
Okay.
It is what that essence can do to something that is not meant to use it in the way they use it
The
that
application.
becomes corrupted. The application and the applicator.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. That's
So
right.
unless a person is specifically selected by Most High
Yes.
to use a certain set of skills that men are not meant to have,
Yes.
that person will eventually become twisted in one way or another
Yes.
because they are dabbling in powers they do not understand and they are
Yes.
not meant to use.
I just want to get it straight that even though I'm trying to talk about astrology, I am trying to say that the astrology, okay, astrology in itself as a discipline is one of the secrets of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
What has been done to that is a completely another question, as in how it's been applied and who it's been applied by is a complete different question. And it's astrology highly likely has been top of the list there in how that has been misapplied and the mischief and the darkness that that so-called practice has brought about.
Well, astrology in itself is pretty much predicting a certain outcome
Yes,
using certain methods. That can lead to a force in hand of free will. There's a lot of others that are much worse than that.
yeah,
Take herbology, for example.
yeah.
Just the sheer fact of knowing not necessarily how to cure someone, but they also learn how to poison someone.
Yeah, totally.
And the amount of different deaths that you can bring to a person just by using a couple of plants here and there. I mean,
Yes.
suffice to say almonds,
Yes.
if anyone catches that reference. The amount of different types of extremely painful deaths that you can bring to a person just
Yes.
with a single plant
Yes,
is terrifying.
totally. And so it's not for healing, but it's also for killing.
That's right. And if the corruption of men never was to be, well, they would have never needed that healing to start off with because those diseases would have never existed.
Would you say that all of the secrets of heaven, all of the secrets of heaven can be used for healing and benefit and for mischief and murder?
Yeah, absolutely. But the question is, do we have the right to use those secrets if we have not been personally selected by Most High to do so?
Have we the maturity to make that decision of whether you're using those secrets for murder or for healing?
That is up to the consciousness of each person, I say,
Yeah.
because each person will face different music
Yes.
at different point in time.
Yes. Yes. So it's a question of all perpetrators, from what I've seen, even not just historically or on a larger level, but even down to the earth, to the level of local, all perpetrators will always say, "I'm mature and I know best, and I will not make mistakes." Leave it up to me. E.g., politicians, just as an example. And then completely begin the stuff up from that point.
So these 200 weren't using them for the benefit of mankind.
No.
They were deliberately leading astray and corrupting.
Well, they needed something, I don't know if to call it some form of exchange, but from what I can understand, men at that point were pretty pure. So for
Innocent.
them, innocent, for them to agree to a mixed breed with angels, would have had to involve a high level of trickery in between. Easiest way to do that, corrupt them with trinkets. Here, look at this shiny.
Oh, come on, come on. I'm not like that, so I can't understand that sort of behavior. Like,
Who loves
khakis,
Lamborghinis? Who loves Lamborghinis?
Yeah.
Sorry, babe.
Every single person, without exception, has a weak point.
Yes,
And if
except me.
and as there exists people that know how to push buttons,
Yeah,
there'll be people that will respond to those.
yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing. And so we're seeing the rapid delinquency of mankind. Well, at this point in time, they were rapidly not anymore men, were they? They were chimeras.
Well, what was being born from the outcome, so to speak, was far from men.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. And so the race of the race of mankind was actually being destroyed by distortion.
Creating humans.
Now, this in this last verse here, it says, and as men perish, like it's like man started to realise or started to wake up a bit. They cried, and their cry went up to heaven. So they accepted it for...
They realized that they'd screwed up, but they realized a tad little bit too late.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The disease had already hit.
It had already hit and it had already spread.
Yes. And they could do nothing about it. And so they were even being hunted by these giants.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great place to live.
I would have liked those times.
All right.
Just a little bit before that and possibly a little bit after that.
Go to the next chapter.
Chapter 9?
Chapter 9. Okay. So this really intrigues me, this part here, because as we were talking in the last episode, there seems to have been, if you read all of the books and you're starting to get a very good picture of what's building up here, there is a beginning and a whole plot and a decisive end. And the fact that Michael, Uriel, Raphael, Gabriel looked down from heaven and they started to complain, well, or exhort the Most High, like, do something about this. You know, can't you see what's going on? Well, of course he can see what was going on. You know, don't you want to do anything about it? It says to me that these, even these archangels were not savvy to the entire picture of what was going on.
Well, it's said more than once. Even Most High to Enoch said, "These secrets I have not even shown my angel."
Yes. Yes, that's astounding.
He's
isn't
the
it?
only one that has the complete picture and has given what needs to have to each of the pieces.
Yes.
But
Yes.
is a piece of a puzzle conscious of the other piece?
No.
Not necessarily.
No.
They might be aware of the pieces that surround them,
Yes.
but the ones that are on the opposite side of the puzzle,
Yes. Yeah, just move on a bit, just down the page, because this first part is all about the fact that they were stating the obvious. And right on the end of the part there, thou seest these things and thou dost suffer them, and thou dost not say to us, what are we to do to them? Like Most High, you're not giving us anything to do about this. I mean, you know, me and the boys could get down there with our fiery swords and we could start, taking some of these suckers out. which actually they could do.
But
But they're not doing it. He says, Dad, does not say to us.
it's also true that Most High needed to see that men realized how much they'd screwed up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very sobering, but this is the days of Noah, and there's a warning in the Gospels that's saying, as it was in the days of Noah. So this is happening.
So shall be again.
Yes. And already we can see this because there is so much talk in especially science documentaries, channels, papers, presentations about hybridization, about changing mankind so that mankind can live a lot longer, have a lot longer.
Well, you got cyberization to start off with.
Cyberization, implanting. And the difference or the mistake we make is to think, oh, well, that's happened because of our long line of evolution and we've now come to this technological point. No. What it's saying here is that technological point was reached 6,000 years ago. It was reached then.
Well, there's a lot of cases in tech, especially when prophets in between the middle of it, in where they will develop to the maximum extent possible a certain piece of tech, and then they will deconstruct it down to its very basics and release that basic one as the first version.
Yes.
Some years later, they'll add on what they took off and they'll release a brand new one saying, oh, this has just been discovered. And then they'll do the same and they'll do the same. They can plan about 20 years worth of upgrades to, say, for example, a phone.
Okay.
You have the iPhone 1 as it started.
Okay.
But the iPhone 1, to what I know, already had the technological capabilities of the iPhone 5 and 6.
Okay.
Yet just stripped down without its components.
Yes.
Computers do exactly the same things. They release a massively working CPU.
Yes.
And what they'll do is that they'll cut off cores from that CPU and over time release one that doesn't have so many cores cut off of it.
Okay.
And then they'll do one with all of its cores available.
Yes.
And then what do they do once that one has reached its peak?
Yes.
They start anew.
Yes.
And out comes a new CPU with very basic functionality, but still better than the one they released previously.
So what you're saying is the technology is already here. They're just eking it out. And so that people have the impression that we're just getting smarter and smarter technologically.
Just getting smarter and smarter when, in a sense, the tech, in most cases, is already there.
It's here.
It's just that for profit's sake will be deconstructed to its very basics, and that will be launched as a massive wow.
Well, I'm going to make a bold statement and say that all that we're experiencing at this present time, everything, is simply the technology of the fallen angels.
Knowledge that could have been given quite a long time ago.
Yes.
And has just been released slowly throughout time.
Yes. Yes. It's just been released slowly throughout time for our total benefit and happiness.
Or is it? Or is it for our total benefit and happiness?
I'm not going to twiddle my nose at a coffee maker.
I'm with you there, brother.
A coffee maker. Going to chapter 10.
Dear.
Yeah. Oh, this is what we'll do next week or next time. Because, did we read this?
Yeah, we read up to 12.
I'm sorry.
We did read it.
Oh, that's right, because now we've actually got a name for these little scrubbers. They're called watchers. Oh, there's an interesting term, isn't it?
It is.
Because you'll find if you read any of the other books that the watchers, that's exactly what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to watch over young, juvenile mankind and look after mankind and protect mankind. And now what they've done is that they've come and raped and pillaged mankind.
Well, that's the whole reason apparently behind the Watchers having the forbidden knowledge behind sorcery, for example.
Okay.
To what I know, the Watchers were given access to certain secrets to make that job of watching and protecting easier.
Yeah.
Say, for example, astrology.
Yeah.
Angels didn't have access to the knowledge of what was to come.
Okay.
Therefore, some of them were given knowledge of astrology to determine what was the possible outcome of each person they were trying to protect.
Yep.
And therefore assist them in guiding them, saying, look, this is going to happen to you if you go down that road.
Yes.
Why not take this one better?
Okay.
They had access to those secrets in order to make their job as watchers and protectors easier.
Yes.
Did they abuse the ever-living out of that in all the wrong ways? Yeah.
So what's an interesting part here too is that Noah was alive at this point.
Well, yeah.
Noah was seeing this, not only Enoch, but Noah was also a witness to all of this. So all of these people in the beginning knew each other because they lived such a long time. They all lived in excess of 900 years.
Noah was quite young at this point, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a young man when all this was happening.
Well, what could be considered at that point in time a young man? Because that would have been, what, in his 50s or 60s when he started building the ark?
In the age? Yeah. Oh, no, he was he 200, wasn't he?
200?
I can't remember.
I think he was
sorry.
200.
It mentions it
Just
here
look that
afterwards
up.
anyway.
Prove me wrong, everybody out there.
Yeah.
I think he was pretty much around 200 years old because he preached for 100 years as he was building the ark.
You know, but I mean, at the point in time when he started building the ark.
Yes, yes. Yes, he was, I think, pretty sure he was around about the 200, 250 years old.
Okay.
I have read that, but right off the top of my head, I'd have to look it up again. But right in, where are we? Going down into 9.
Well, chapter 10 pretty much describes the specific punishment given to the ringleader, the head of this group at this point in time, who was Azazel. He was the one that copped the worst because he was the one that instigated it all.
Yes. Yeah, he is the one that talked everybody into making the pact. And if you just cast your mind back, you can turn back the video a little bit just to catch up with it if you like the reading. But he said to them that I am afraid that if I do this, I'll be the one that catches the lot.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, no, you poor little Azazel. Oh, no. In fact, what we'll do is we'll make it all good for you, and we'll all come on your boat and hold your little hand, and we'll all make a pact to commit the same.
Well, that was the first demonstration of what you could call a brotherhood.
Yes. Well, gone is my aspiration that angels are clever.
Yeah, but as you said, it's, in verse 8 it says, the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught to Azazel. To him ascribe all sin. So, yeah, he was the one that started it, yeah.
Even if you're a band of angels, why would you want to go against Most High? I mean, the battle's already lost before you've even thought about it.
Well, at least Azazel already knew the boot they were going to get. Because if not, he wouldn't have said, look, this is going down real bad. I ain't going down alone. When it does burn, I am burning on my own. So yous are all in it with me.
I'm not
He already
certain on my own.
knew that things were going to go sideways.
Okay, so why did the others agree to go with him?
I can give so many unpleasant statements in this moment.
Oh,
Right, okay. For another time?
No, just not for the cameras.
and of course, Most High comes against them, and he says, and this is what you'll see in Greek mythology too, because what we're talking here is the battle of the Titans. If anybody is at all even briefly acquainted with Greek mythology, we talk about the battle of the Titans, and it would seem to be making reference to the battle of the Titans right here. And it says, send them one against the other. This is verse 9. And the other, and they may destroy each other in battle. For length of days they shall not have. Why? Because they're going to be killed in battle.
A short drop with a sudden stop.
Yes. Just scroll it up a bit. And no request that they, that is their fathers, make of thee shall be granted unto their fathers on their behalf. So don't even ask for any any granting of what you want, because it's just not going to be done for you. Make of the, it says, for they hope to live an eternal life. Yes. Now you're sort of coming on to perhaps, maybe, that's why they sided with Satan.
He offered them a vast extension, maybe?
A vast extension.
He offered them the promise of victory in where he had control.
Yes.
And with that control, promising certain dominion over
Yes.
that land to some of these.
Yes. Yes. So he promised them literally the earth. Literally.
Okay, yeah.
And hope to live an eternal life, that each one of them will live 500 years.
Which is far from eternal, but...
Yes. Go bind Semyaza. Go get him.
And
Oh,
his
dear.
associates.
And all those who have united themselves with women so as to have defiled themselves with all their uncleanness. And when their sons have slain one another, battle of the Titans, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valley of the earth. And so historically, these things are still here. And they're still imprisoned on earth. Many people would probably start to balk at that and say, oh, come on, we've explored possibly every square inch of this earth, and where are they?
Well, 12 miles is the deepest excavation that exists.
Yeah.
Up to the minute, it hasn't been possible, I believe, to reach any further than that.
I think you're right. Yeah.
For an actual person excavating.
And yeah.
That's from ground level.
Yeah.
If you were to take, for example, excavation straight down from the top end of a mountain,
Yes.
you wouldn't even reach that far.
And you've got to remember too, perhaps I'm running the risk of losing some future viewers, but it's this, the way that we see things comes from the fact that we think that we've been taught everything we need to know about geography. And in fact, have anybody ever asked the question, do I know about the total Earth? The fact that I've been given an atlas and maybe a globe or something like that, therefore, is it telling me everything about the Earth? Is it totally correct? Is this it? As in, is that all the Earth that there exists? And maybe not.
And I think in future chapters, Enoch goes and explains that as well.
Yeah, it starts to get pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because in those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, verse 13, and the torment and the prison in which they shall be confined forever. This is the ye that we were talking about in the last episode. And this is all of the offspring, the hybrids, all of the distortions that were so distorted in body and mind and soul that they could not stop their, what word did you use? Viciousness. They couldn't stop it. It was now inbred. These things were like rabid dogs. They had to be contained. And to the torment of the prison in which they shall be confined forever, and whosoever shall be condemned and destroyed will from thenceforth be bound together with them in the end of all generations. And that's what we're probably talking about as a hell.
Well, here's the interesting part, because it's pretty much saying that those who have their physical body destroyed
Yes.
will have their ethereal body bound.
Yes. It's pretty sobering, really, isn't it? Pretty sobering.
But easy to miss.
Yes.
It's easy to miss because a lot of people would be saying, oh, but if they were destroyed, how can they be bound?
Yes. Well, I think that you've got to sort of just take apart the idea that death means total obliteration, in the sense that you have no awareness. It's just nothing, darkness. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're saying that once the body is smashed, once it's killed, there is another side that still holds
One
consciousness.
that's a tad bit longer.
Yes. And at this point in time would seem to be bound. And destroy, verse 15, all the spirits of the reprobate and the children of the watchers, because they have wronged mankind. Destroy all wrong from the face of the earth, and let every evil work come to an end. Let the plant of righteousness and truth appear, and it shall prove a blessing. The works of righteousness and truth shall be planted in truth and joy forevermore. And I like this bit. And then shall all the righteous escape. Even though the righteous, like, okay, again, I'm not trying to sort of say that, we're sort of super pious and we're looking down on everybody else. That's not the truth. The very fact is that mankind, who was created in the first place, is now in with a den of lions, a den of snakes, and is in mortal danger, except the fact that Most High keeps that person safe, just like Daniel in the lion's den, if you like. Keeps that person safe. And it then is turned on its head, the fact that we're not stuck on this earth with the watchers. They're stuck on this earth with me and you. That's not good for them. And so why would all of these writings and these truths showing us our status, showing us who we are, why should they wish to suppress those things? Why should they wish to hide the information, showing you who you are, what this is all about? Why can't you just live in ignorance and just shut up and do what you're told?
From the very beginning, he said, I will take the throne one way or another.
Yeah.
And if that means pretending to be Most High and teaching everyone that he is Most High, yeah, you would have to wash down a lot of the story, because whatever didn't fit within that story would make it crumble. And there's a lot in ancient texts that will make current conventional Bibles crumble.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the ones that manage those little cash events,
Yes.
they don't like that. They don't like if their followers all of a sudden just start going away and saying, "Hey, you're a bunch of liars."
Yes. I'm quite aware at this stage that we're making some very, very bold and across the board statements. And if anybody out there wants to write any comments and certainly debate, ask questions, again, that's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for.
That's what we want. We do not want our opinion.
We want everyone's opinion.
Yes, we want everyone's opinion because we think that once people and us ourselves are presented with the documents, presented with the exact same knowledge, that you'll probably come to somewhere in the ballpark of the exact same conclusion. Might be some differences here and there, but once you can understand the underlying of what is going on here on this earth, that our technology has been given to us, we didn't think it up. Our technology has been given to us. That there's another race even living to this day, but we'll go into that later because, yes, what happened to them all? That there's another race here who would be called, should I say it? Humans?
We did state that on our first. Was
And
it
then
our
we've
first
got
episode?
man. So you've got human and you've got man. And it's interesting at every juncture how you are now programmed to say that you're human. It's almost as if they're trying to initiate.
And the sad part is that that word is even starting to show up in Bibles.
Oh, yes, that's right. In the later editions, absolutely. Yes. And then shall all the righteous escape and shall live until they beget thousands of children, and all the days of the youth and their old age they shall complete in peace. That's a future time, by the way. And the earth will be tilled in righteousness and trees, and it says, and cleanse thou the earth from all oppression and from all unrighteousness. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that really the angels that have stayed loyal are ones that will be, shall we say, our minders, our ones that look after us, and ones that do a lot of the housework. Would you say? I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Can't really be stated otherwise, because it does pretty much imply that angels were to serve men,
Yes.
but they were to serve them out of their own free will.
Yes.
Because that's the difference in between a servant and a slave.
Yeah, totally agree there. That they had to
A line of respect for start off with.
Yeah. Angels serve you out of their own free will. And the fallen watchers do exactly the opposite.
The opposite. They want you to serve them.
They have free will, but not for your benefit. Oh, yeah, the story's getting deep.
It's getting deep. It's getting thick.
Should we leave it there?
Yes, we'll leave it up to this point, because we've still managed to reach at least a partial conclusion to a lot of things.
Yes.
And it will leave a lot of our viewers with plenty of questions.
Yeah, plenty of questions.
And by all means, please feel free, fill our comments.
Yes.
Fill them up with all of your questions. We'd love to discuss every single last one of them.
Yes.
We might not necessarily be able to pose an answer, but maybe someone out there can.
And next time, we'll start to read about how these very watchers started to be seized with fear because they had second thoughts about what they've done.
Well, they saw what was coming to them and they're like, oh.
Thank you.
Until next time, thank you everyone that has been watching this video up until the very end. We look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Have a nice one.